Keith, just more broadly on the incoming president's first couple of weeks, I mean, some of these appointments, geez, are going to shake the tree in Washington.
Absolutely, Peter, and I agree with Alex. It's quite extraordinary not having the separation of powers. I actually went to have a bit of a look. Would you believe Obama pardoned almost 2,000 people, Donald Trump in his last term a couple hundred, and Joe Biden just 26, and one happens to be his son. I mean, what an incredible power to have. But I think Donald Trump, the US people have made the right decision. I think this is just another justification for his election. And his selections have been broad, and you've got Matt Whitaker, who I know very well. He'll be the ambassador to NATO, and I think that will definitely help sort out the issue in Ukraine. And I look forward to more strong decisions from Donald Trump in the United States.
Alex, what do you make about the decision today by Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke to refuse an Australian visa to a former Israeli government minister, Eilat Shaked?
Yeah, well, Peter, I mean, this is becoming all too familiar, isn't it? We have this sort of strange path where people are singled out for reasons of social cohesion. I mean, I think a similar power was used, if not the exact same power, without being corrected, for Novak Djokovic and Candace Owens. Novak Djokovic, of course, came through the middle of COVID, and you can see how this power can be used in terms of the minister's own subjective opinion in many respects as to what is going to harm society. Now, I mean, I take the view, I would rather hear what people have got to say, regardless of whether or not I'm offended by it or not. I just think this is a very, very dangerous way to go. And so I think, freedom of speech is finite. I get it. You can't have people calling for, killings and murders and all the rest of it. We all agree with that. But you start entering into dangerous territory when you start denying people visas on these grounds, I reckon.
Look, I share that view. Let's go to Queensland, up your way. Homestyle Bake, Keith, has warned that manufacturing in this country is being priced out of existence. This is a business that now pays 200% more for gas and around 300% more for electricity than it did just 3 years ago. It comes as South Australia scrambles to restart 2 diesel power plants to shore up its energy supply, with Victoria and New South Wales also facing possible gas shortages as early as winter 2026, unless we, a gas-rich country, import more gas. Victoria, of course, plenty of gas in the ground. We just don't have a government that allows us to get it out.
Well, Peter, none of those 4 or 5 items sound like a $275 reduction to me. Not one of them. And guess what? It impacts directly our food supply into Australia and what things cost. And once again, it will make international companies more competitive. If I remember correctly, in the US, their gas price is around $3 a gigajoule. I mean, that's US dollars, obviously. And here I'm hearing quotes in Australian dollars above 20 on the spot market for our manufacturers. It is a ludicrous position to find ourselves in. It is all off the back of Labor policies. And now you're looking at having to start diesel generators in South Australia to keep the lights on. And these are big ones. They're not reciprocating engines. These are like a gas turbine themselves. So once again, across the board, state, federal Labor governments, it is their policies that are driving the Australian people to the wall on cost of living. We will have less manufacturers, not more, under this Labor government.
Alex, the ACTU want to make more rights to work from home an election issue. I can't believe you could be that lucky, surely.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, this is just that another hangover from the COVID period that seems to not want to go away, this work for home scenario. Ultimately, this has really got to come to an end, I think. I mean, people were locked in their homes, sure, but we've now got central business districts that are crying out for people to come back to the office. And, I mean, look, where does the ACTU go when it has prosecuted every legitimate argument perhaps twice over? Well, it looks to work from home because everyone wants to work in their pyjamas. It's got to end. I mean, businesses have a right to have people in their offices. Every business that I speak to that can have people working from home wishes they had less. And I think it's, I very happily tackle that one in the lead up to an election. You're quite right about that.
Keith, I brought a story to my viewers last week about a convicted murderer in Victoria who'd been approved to get IVF treatment. Well, the government's been weak. Jacinta Allen sort of wringing her hands about it, says she won't discuss personal circumstances. But all the public hospitals to have IVF services as well as the state's major IVF clinics, they are saying they will not treat this woman. So leadership from the clinics and not the Premier.
Well, Peter, I know this is a desperately personal issue for you, and I know your history. But if you're in jail, there's a reason for that. You are paying a penalty for something that you've done in your former life, and this is one of those penalties. I think people in Victoria would be horrified as to what you can get access to as a jail inmate. The idea is that you're supposed to have a penalty because of the things that you've done, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. But it's another reason the Victorian government is tanking, not just on the economy, which is an absolute disaster. Here's another reason.
You're not wrong. I think parenthood is a responsibility, not just a right. In this case, she loses her rights. Thank you both.
Gift.
See you next week.